Grandma said he had to protect Jessica because that's what big brothers do. He'd worried so much about it that he'd snuck in to sleep on the floor beside her crib just in case the monsters who lived in the closet came to eat her in the nighttime. But he'd woken in his own bed in the morning, so maybe he'd only dreamed he'd gone in to protect her. They shuffled up in line, and Douglas glanced, a bit uneasily, at the smiling elves who danced around Santa's workshop. They looked a little bit mean and mad, like Jessica when she was crying really loud. If Jessica didn't wake up, she wasn't going to get to sit on Santa's lap. It was stupid for Jessie to be all dressed up to sit on Santa's lap because she couldn't say "excuse me" when she burped, and she couldn't tell Santa what she wanted for Christmas. But he could. He was 3.5 years old. He was a big boy now. Everyone said so. Mama crouched down and spoke to him softly. When she asked if he had to pee, he shook his head. She had that tired look on her face, and he was afraid if they went to the bathroom, they'd never get back in line and see Santa. She gave his hand a squeeze, smiled at him, and promised it wouldn't be much longer. He wanted a Hot Wheels, and a G.I. Joe, and a Fisher-Price garage, and some Matchbox cars, and a big yellow bulldozer like the one his friend Mitch got for his birthday. Jessica was too young to play with real toys. She just got girl stuff like funny dresses and stuffed animals. Girls were pretty dopey, but baby girls were even more dopey. But he was going to tell Santa about Jessica, so he wouldn't forget to bring stuff for her when he came down the chimney at their house. Mama was talking to someone, but he didn't listen. The grown-up talk didn't interest him. Especially when the line moved, people shifted, and he saw Santa. He was big. It seemed to Douglas, on the first ripple of fear, that Santa wasn't so big in the cartoons or in the pictures in the storybooks. He was sitting on his throne in front of his workshop. There were lots of elves and reindeer and snowmen. Everything was moving, heads and arms, big, big smiles. Santa's beard was very long. You could hardly see his face. And when he let out a big, booming ho, 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 the sound of it squeezed Douglas's bladder like mean fingers. Lights flashed. A baby wailed. Elves grinned. He was a big boy now, a big boy now. He wasn't afraid of Santa Claus. Mama tugged his hand, told him to go ahead, go sit on Santa's lap. She was smiling, too. He took a step forward, then another, on legs that began to shake, and Santa hoisted him up. "Merry Christmas! Have you been a good boy?" Terror struck Douglas's heart like a hatchet. The elves were closing in. Rudolph's red nose blinked. The snowman turned his wide, round head and leered. The big man in the red suit held him tight and stared at him with tiny, tiny eyes. Screaming, struggling, Douglas tumbled out of Santa's lap, hit the platform hard, and wet his pants. People moved in, voices streamed above him, so all he could do was curl up and wail. Then Mama was there, pulling him close, telling him it was all right, fussing over him because he'd hit his nose and made it bleed. She kissed him, stroked him, and didn't scold him for wetting his pants. His breath was still coming in hard little gasps as he burrowed into her. She gave him a big hug, lifted him up so he could press his face to her shoulder. Still murmuring to him, she turned and began to scream and began to run. Clinging to her, Douglas looked down and saw Jessica's stroller was empty. Part 1. The Overburden. Go where we will on the surface of things, men have been there before us. Henry David Thoreau. 1.